Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey there, Startup Nation. Welcome back to another episode of You Got It, the Private Practice Startup Podcast. We are super excited that you guys are here today, really, and every time that you listen. We so appreciate your listenership. And if you're a loyal listener, thank you. And if you are brand new to Startup Nation, welcome. Welcome to the family. We hope that you guys joined us last week as we welcome back the one, the only Tiffany McLean. If you need some energy and you're not into drinking coffee, listen to Tiffany. She is always energetic and very passionate about everything she speaks about. That time and that podcast, we talked about race, worth, and money. So that was a very interesting podcast as we dove into that topic. Today, our guest is Mike McDermott, and we are going to be talking about why culture is strategy and one of Mike's number one priorities. And I'll share a little bit about Mike in just a second. But before I do that, for those of you who are new, we wanted to say, like I said, welcome to the Startup Nation family. We have a gift for you. We would love for you to head on over to privatepracticestartup.com, slide on over to the resources tab, and grab your attorney-approved customizable HIPAA form for free. Like it or not, therapists, we have to do paperwork. I know it is a struggle, but we would like to gift that to you and take advantage of anything else that you see there. A little bit about Mike. Mike is the co-founder and CEO of FreshBooks, the number one accounting software in the cloud, designed exclusively for freelancers and growing service-based businesses. Built out of frustration after accidentally saving over an invoice, Mike spent 3.5 years creating FreshBooks from his parents' basement. Since launching in 2003, over 24 million people have used FreshBooks to save time, billing, and collecting billions of dollars overall. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
So I always love the stories, like I think about Amazon starting in a garage, your business starting in a basement, and now you're podcasting from a 250-year-old farmhouse today. So I always love the stories about where businesses started and where people are podcasting from. Kate and I have had people, well, Kate's been in the closet podcasting now, but we've had people in a vault before podcasting and some other fun, and like on the floor, hover down in their bedroom. So it's always fun to know where people are from. And I'm really excited about today's podcast topic, talking all about culture. So before we kind of dive into the podcast topic, Mike, we just want to know a little bit about you and your story and kind of go from there.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. So I am the founder and CEO of FreshBooks, and today we are the number 2 accounting software in America, which it may not be obvious to people, but nonetheless we are. And we got started out because I was running a small design firm. I accidentally saved over an invoice and said there just has to be a better way to do this. And so I built something, and I built something for myself, and it really started that way. And then we said, oh, geez, other people are going to like this. And then I became very excited about building a product in a product company. And so that's what we did. We ended up moving into my parents' basement for 3.5 years. For the first 2 years, we got to 10 customers paying us $100 a month, basically, with myself and 2 other founders. So it was a pretty humble beginning, but we just loved what we were doing. We loved talking with our customers, and so we stuck with it. So I ended up spending 3.5 years in my parents' basement. We left with 6 people showing up to my parents' place. I turned 30 in the basement. That was a while ago now. And today, since then, over 20 million people have used our software. We have paying customers in 100 countries around the world. We're number 2 in America. And I think, that's all well and good. I think the thing that makes us different is that we don't try to build for every small business. We're literally built for service-based small businesses. And so we have a lot of therapists use us, a lot of designers, marketing agencies, lawyers. And the reason we decided not to build, so we're not for everyone. We're not for retail. We're not for restaurants. We just wanted the product to be really simple and easy to use, and built for owners who didn't go into life to do this back office stuff. So just keep it really simple. And so I think that's relevant. And then just with an eye on getting into culture, I do believe, an advisor of mine impressed upon me early days that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the best plan. Yeah, you have the best plan in the world, and if the culture of your organization is not either capable or wired to go after it, it's just not going to work out. But if you bake strategy into your culture, like amazing things happen when you're not looking. And just to kind of validate my interest in this or verify, I don't know how to put it, but we have been if you think about Google and everybody competing for great places to work, there's a institution that's independent that evaluates all these companies, and the Fortune 500 Great Places to Work, it's Great Places to Work survey. So we have been a top 10 employer for 8 of 9 years, in that, for under 1,000 employee companies. And the 1 year we were number 11. So that is, what the reason I raise that is, people love working with us at the organization. And we spend a lot of time thinking about why they would and how they can continue to, and have baked a lot of things into our culture. We also won a whole bunch of customer service awards. That's another whole thing. But the point is, we bake these things into our culture, and they perpetuate themselves naturally because we did.
So what's interesting, what I'm hearing like from your story, so you said you were working with a design firm company. Now, when you decided to build something for yourself, are you like super techie? Is that your background? Or you were like kind of creating this design and worked with some tech folks?
So what happened was we were running it was really website design, internet marketing services that we were offering people. And so I built a very rudimentary version of our software. Yeah, this is, you may have heard the term a hacker. Like I'm not a great software developer. In fact, our team would never let me write software these days. But I had a picture of something in my mind, and I figured out a way to kind of build a prototype. And then I started working with my co-founders who built it out further. And
did you ever think like you were going to become a CEO of this grand company, or were you just like trying to create something that, served an area?
Yeah, but the motivation and the objective, I really had trouble looking ahead and thinking about how big it could be, to be honest. But I never had, it was so clear when we spoke to people that this act of serving others through this offering, and because they really loved it and benefited from it, was so rewarding that it was like, I just want to completely channel myself into this. And so have had to learn how to be a CEO and learn what is culture along the way.
Nice. So let's take a quick moment for our sponsor before we dive into the culture conversation.
You didn't become a therapist to reconcile your expenses or figure out tax deductions. Herd Bookkeeping and Tax guides your private practice with affordable bookkeeping, one-on-one expert help, and tax support so you can get back to seeing clients. This means no more fiddling around with those spreadsheets, overpaying accountants, or guessing your quarterly tax payments. Herd is the only financial platform designed exclusively for you, mental health professionals. Just ask Melanie Evans, a clinical social worker from New York. Melanie says, it's great to have an expert to turn to whenever I have a question related to accounting. Knowing that my bookkeeping and taxes are in good hands, I can really focus on the more clinical parts of my work. Whether this is your first year in practice or you're an experienced clinician, Herd Bookkeeping and Tax helps you manage your practice finances with ease at a price you can afford. Visit joinherd, HEARD.com to schedule a consultation and see how their services can help your practice thrive.
Okay, guys, it's sponsor time. You know what? Instead of reading a script about Gusto's payroll and benefits, we wanted to tell you what small business owners say, the people who use Gusto every day. Here's what one small business owner says. With Gusto, I think of payroll as a 30-second job. The website is so friendly and a joy to use. Friendly payroll? You don't hear that every day. And how about Amy from Utah? Amy says, I love Gusto so much. It's so painless. It's like going to the spa, and we have great options and rates even though we're a super small team. Like going to the spa? Wow. And here's what Amneet says about Gusto's support team. Whenever something comes up, I reach out and literally 24 hours later, they tell us what to do or assure us that we've already handled it. Smart technology and friendly humans, that's super cool. Honestly, the list goes on, and right now our listeners get 3 months free when they go to gusto.com/PPS. Yep, 3 months of payroll, benefits, administration, and more, totally free. Again, that's gusto.com/PPS. Let's jump in there. So, and this is one of the things that Kate and I always talk about with therapists is that, therapy skills don't equal business skills, right? And then business skills don't always equal leadership skills, although they're pretty relevant. So how did you have to learn? Did you know about culture before? Was that always important, or did you have to kind of learn that?
No, I had to first become aware. That was the first step. And I was a student of entrepreneurship. I became one because I was trying to figure out all this stuff. And I started listening to podcasts. And I heard this one podcast, funnily enough, from the CEO of a bank. And he was talking about how culture is the difference in their organization. And I was like, I was like, oh, bank CEO, culture. No, you don't believe in that. But he convinced me. I was like, wow, I really believe you. And then it kind of started this, okay, well, what is culture? And I don't know that he handed those answers out, but I started to go on this long journey of I have no idea what it is. And then once I got a sense of what it is, I had no idea how to create or perpetuate it. And so I've had to kind of figure all this stuff out from first principles, and that, I think we had good success in doing so.
It's interesting as you talk about this because therapists have so many different types of businesses. There's solopreneurs, there's group practice owners, and people all along the continuum. And for solopreneurs, oftentimes they don't even think about culture. And group practice owners, oftentimes they won't think about culture either. So let's start at the top with having you define culture for us.
So to me, culture is what happens when no one's looking. Okay, so I like to use the example of you work in one organization, there's a piece of garbage on the floor and people walk past it. You're another organization, there's a piece of garbage on the floor and anyone would pick it up. The difference is culture.
Nice. I like that. It's interesting that you define it that way. I define integrity that way, right? Integrity is what happens when no one's looking, right? Oh, but I'm at the red light and, no one's around and I'm waiting too long. Do I stay here or do I run the red light? I like that you define culture like that. So take us on your journey of learning about culture. How did you implement it and kind of go from there?
Well, once you start going down the path, you start to realize there is some prior art and there are some people who've done a good job of this. And so got to a place relatively quickly where we realized, hey, if you really want to perpetuate culture and you think about the organizations that do a really good job of it, they often have a clearly articulated set of values. And so the effort of going ahead and sort of documenting those to the best of your ability is something that you're going to want to go ahead and do. And so we did that. We did it very bottoms up. We were probably, 15 people when the first time we did it. And, we didn't know what the values were, but we knew what mattered to us. And so we wrote down what's all the stuff that we believe we are and we observe in ourselves and each other. And we put that stuff all on the wall and they started to theme up into a set of values. And those became our values as it was like one word and then a definition of what that word is. I have opinions on, I think there's better ways to do it than we did, but I think the values themselves are hard to improve upon.
Yeah. And it's like like I said, we love talking about culture stuff, and Kate and I have a marketing e-course and coaching program where we talk about culture and really defining culture. And like Kate was saying is, sometimes as a sole therapist, you're like, well, do I really need culture? And we really talk about how when you're clear on your brand, your mission, your values, and your culture, business becomes easier and making decisions about business is easier. And I know one of the ways that we've helped folks define culture, it's like what's important to us, what's important to the business, what's important to our team, what's important to our clients. What are some of your key points of culture or values of culture?
Yeah. So let's talk about it and see if our mental models map, but they may not. So I think of, your values are, you're trying to really document the behaviors you want to see perpetuated, right? So the behaviors day to day. I think culture is an output from consistently living your values. It's not an input. It's an output. And chances are, if you're that solo practitioner, you have a culture. You probably just haven't thought about it or written it down. But if you spoke with enough clients or, peers in the industry, they'd tell you a bunch about yourself and you'd be able to write down like a set of values that are your values, right? And you can say, you can decide, oh, okay, that's something I actually want to work beyond. And so I'll write it a little differently in hopes of getting there. But, the lion's share of what makes you successful and you is, things that are going to happen repeatedly. And that's, by the way, I think that's a founder's kernel. A lot of the values of an organization actually reflect a founder, and that you should have no shame about that. Not that you want to be closed-minded to the input of others, but that is okay. So the values to me are like the documented behaviors you want to go ahead and perpetuate, and you get a culture on the other side of consistently doing that. You can use them to figure out things like, well, who would I hire? Because I think that's the next big move. Okay, is this person a values fit? It doesn't mean we agree about politics. It doesn't mean that our skin color is the same. But, at our core, do I let's say you have a value around, we have one around passion. And so that is around, and the way we define passion is, we're continuously working on our craft. If we weren't doing it here, we'd be doing it somewhere else. And so what that means is, like when I interview somebody, I want to know that they've read articles recently that are changing their mind about their discipline as they continue to grow and improve, and that they are self-learning in a way. Anyhow, so then I use that to interview and say, do we have that? And if someone's like, no, I haven't read anything in like 3 years, I just make it up. I'm like, you know what? Not a fit. On to the next person. And so that's kind of how you can use them. And you can use them once you have people also, if somebody is behaving poorly, often when you think about what that is, you can say, oh, we have this value around, let's say it's passion. And it's like, hey, we need to learn new things to grow and improve. And, we provided you with the time, we provided you with the resources, and you're not, we've led the horse to water and it's not drinking, but this is part of who we are and where we're going. And if, you don't want to grow and improve yourself, then we probably need to part ways. So that sets up a very elegant conversation around how to say goodbye to somebody. So that's, this is what values can do for you if you have them sort of documented and described.
It's nice when you're clear on your core brand values, and oftentimes it's something that will also reflect in your personal life, your professional life, and when you have that clarity around that and also work to become clearer around your culture, then like Katie was saying earlier, there's so many decisions that become so much easier. Right now, I'm in the process of actually expanding our brand with a West Side location for Bayview Therapy for my group practice, and because I'm clear on the company values and our culture and what's worked for us in one location within the culture to be able to replicate that in a second location, it becomes so much easier to determine who's in alignment with that and who's not. And it makes decisions so much easier in finding the right fit for people who are going to be in alignment with those important values and characteristics and qualities about your company. And then it just becomes so much more seamless. And it's very clear who's not going to be a fit for that. So it really does inform a lot of those decisions and make it a lot easier.
Yeah, and it really hits on like the heart of the person, right? And I know that like Mike, you were mentioning about like hiring, right? Like normally most people are like, okay, well, what is your experience? What is this? What is that? And it almost sounds like you probably like lead off with this question, and that's going to be a determining factor of like, is this interview over or are we going to continue? And that's like kind of the easy part because, when Kate and I talk about, like a brand, it's a really living, breathing organism, right? And that's what a company is. And you want to basically, even though you have a product or a service, is you want to kind of like share this experience, right? And as humans, even though we think we're super logical and rational, we're not. And especially therapists know this, right? We're driven by emotion. And, when a company can make us feel a certain way, or working for a company can make us feel a certain way, that is often the determining factor. It's not about like the money. People have been, statistically speaking, people have been interviewed like, why did you stay or why did you leave? And it's never usually about the money. It's how my boss made me feel, how the company takes care of me, whatever it is. So it's such a beautiful and important thing. Share with us some of the interesting, unique things about your guys' company culture.
Well, I think I'll share with you something that I think has been the thing that's helped us sustain and perpetuate it over the years. And it's a non-obvious thing, but it's like great to go ahead and write all this stuff down. But then you just have a little bit of sort of, once you hire the right people, I think you said it earlier, something dangerously close to, you need to get everybody vibrating on the same frequency. And so, hey, we have a shared value set, but what does that look like day to day? How do we get things done here, et cetera? So what we do is we actually send everyone into a month of training. And what that looks like is we give them some high-level company history. This is, the business results and, whatever. And that's 2 or 3 days. But we spend a lot of time on what are our values and how those are defined. And that's kind of interwoven thread of it. And then you spend, the majority of those 3 weeks learning about our products and then actually serving our customers. So 4 weeks. So basically it's like some company information set you up, then some product education, and then you're talking to customers for 2 weeks. And what that has helped us do is, it's very rare that we've hired somebody who we need to exit like inside of, a few days. But on occasion, we learn that that's, hey, we just don't have a fit here. And so thank you very much, but no thank you. And that's I think that is good for everyone. But also everyone has that common understanding of, how we do things, right? And how we, really put the customer first. And we get all these customer service awards. My philosophy is you take care of the team takes care of the customers, and the customers take care of the business. I think business results are an output of those things. Other people would have different opinions. That's fine. That's served me well over the years. So I think, that is, it starts with sort of culture and sort of perpetuating the things that you want, and then people take care of the customers, and the result is all good. So I think that first month would be a thing.
You're like a person after my own heart. So when I was 26 years old, I got promoted into leadership and was a micromanager because I didn't know how to trust my staff. And throughout 11 years of leadership and running teams and growing teams, I've really had to evolve. And I would always talk about that. And this was my work in community mental health, where the director, so it was like my boss and the director. Now these were people that are like working for like $35,000, 32, like they're almost at that like level where, they could be on like welfare and something like that and have master's degree. And she said to me one time, their paycheck is their reward. And I like looked at her like, are you kidding me? Like they're out at nighttime, 8, 9, 10 at night being called because someone's suicidal, and I was just like absolutely not having it. And for me and my teams, I always gave back. Like it was like, how can I help you grow? And maybe this isn't the right position of you. I would help my teams find other jobs, higher paying jobs, but we had a small culture, and it was something that I learned. And I said the exact same things as you is if I take care of my staff and my team, they're going to take care of our clients, and our clients are going to take care of the business in our program. And it's just this beautiful revolving circle. And I think so many times organizations, leaders, business owners, is they want to take care of the client and step over their team. And it's like, no, like you have to take care of your team, and how crucial that is. Because when I had to write at my staff, they would actually come and apologize to me. It was like, I'm so sorry I let you down. And it was like, it's okay. We're working together. I've been knowing what's going on. So I love that you say that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to call out, though, I think it's perfectly okay to have a culture where the client comes first, and then maybe the staff, or maybe the shareholder, and then the staff. It can work. You're right. It is kind of a circle, and where you start and your philosophy around that should inform the things you go ahead and do, and why the wheel goes around. I think you need to understand, what your organization is and how it's wired and those things. But yes, I think you get different outcomes if you focus on different things, and that can be, and the behaviors of the organization will be different. And so this, for you, it sounds like, hey, you were inside an organization that have a different, sort of sequencing for those things. And that wasn't, ultimately going to work for you long term. And I think that's great. And someone else, it might be like, that's fine. I don't know, but I want to be clear that I don't think, at least for me, I certainly, and I'm not saying you did, but I'm judgment free on how you want to do it. This is how I think about it, and everybody can find their own way. And I think your culture will reflect that. And the other thing I'd say is it's probably already in you. If you're like the founder of the leadership group, like there's probably an answer to this if you search hard enough in yourself of how you're wired and how you think about things. And I would say just being true to that, as opposed to trying to put like, oh, I want to have these other values that are different than who or what I am. Like that's a bad place to go. Better to be yourself, repel the people for whom it's not a fit, and at the same time, you'll attract the ones for whom it is.
I like how you talk about that, because so many people get stuck working in the business, seeing clients, and they forget to take that step back and work on the business. And I like how you say it's already in you. It's just about taking that step back, going in, looking internally and trying to get clear on what is important to you. What are those values? What is the culture that you have already created or really want to create? And how can you really continue to foster and grow that?
I know I've been loving this conversation and so into it. We forgot to take a moment for our sponsor. So let's go ahead and just do that.
Is managing your practice stressing you out? Try Therapy Notes. It makes billing, notes, scheduling, and telehealth a whole lot easier. Check it out, and you will quickly see why it's rated the highest EHR on Trustpilot with over 1,000 verified customer reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 or 5 stars. You'll notice the difference from the first day you sign up for the trial. They offer live phone support 7 days a week. So when you have questions, you can quickly reach someone who can help. You are never wasting time looking for answers. If you're coming from another EHR, they make the transition really easy. Therapy Notes will import your client's demographic data free of charge during your trial so you can get going right away. Use the promo code PPS to get your first 2 months for free, or try out Therapy Notes for free, no strings attached, including their very reliable telehealth platform. Make 2021 the best year yet with Therapy Notes.
Mike, I know you kind of alluded to this already, and we've been talking a little bit about therapists specifically, usually kind of coming in as solopreneurs first and most often growing a group practice and, really connecting within yourself that stuff is already in you. How do you help people kind of figure out kind of their culture?
Yeah. What would I offer up? So let me use an example that's related. I recently moved to a new doctor's office. And my experience of working with that doctor's office is it is run by the administrators, and I don't like it very much. The experience of being a customer is just send us an email to communicate with us, or, fill out this form to do whatever. And I'm like, wow, I really want a different level of service, when I'm working here. And I think it probably means the doctors are very hands off and I don't know what it means, but let me just say, hey, I think it shows up in your customer's experience, what your culture is. So a good frame to understand, hey, what is your culture, is to think about the experiences that are going to be delivered for others and what's important to you sort of there. So that is a high level kind of pithy statement, but ultimately, a culture is going to, the knock-on implications are people are going to go and create experiences. And it might be business performance is the top thing when you want to make as much money as possible. Or it's going to be hey, we're going to think about, really always putting the client care first, and we will take a haircut on our financials to make that happen, or, whatever it is. But I would think about that on the one hand. The other thing I would think about is just how do we actually behave, right? Are we late for meetings regularly? Are we look for how you behave, because that's the way to not fake it. And to say, do we always stay on time? That means we're going to cut some, conversation short. Do we run long? Do we, are we open on holidays? Are we closed on holidays? Do we have 9 to 5 work week, or do we like to work 4 hours a day and make them I don't know how you want to look at it, but I would try to, if you have some history, I would ground it. I would look back and observe, hey, there's some kernels in here. Doesn't mean you can't choose to change some of them. But if you try and change all of them at once or be something you're not, I think you're setting yourself up for disaster. So those are the two things I would think about. Hey, how do you behave? And also, how do we want the experience to be for others? I'm all about, that's the first place for me. It's what's the experience for the customer, for the employee, for the shareholder, which is an end thing. What is the experience, and how do we get them to the one we want?
I love that you share that. And I'm kind of reflecting on, therapists in general, but also on my own experience, right? So I'm very much an on-time person. I ran my sessions that way. And I remember a while back seeing a therapist myself, and she would run 15 minutes late, for my appointment. And I was annoyed. And so I can imagine if you just taking this bird's eye view of my own behaviors, how I operate, but then be able to share that. Hey, sometimes I give myself a buffer of 15 minutes, and that's because it's really important for me to wrap up. And if we're in a place, and I'm going to do the same for you. Right. And then that would be oh, that's really cool, but that doesn't work for me. Or, oh, okay, that's really cool. I want I like this therapist. That's the customer service that I want. So I love that idea of like that reflection of your own behaviors and then being able to kind of communicate that in a way. To me, like I'm always thinking like, how does this serve the client? And I think either way, like if that was communicated, it would be a good experience, right? Meaning I was given the opportunity that this is the culture of how I run my business, and to say yes or no rather than now it's late. Now I feel like my time's being affected and now I'm annoyed. So interesting. Very cool. Well, I'm really enjoying this culture conversation. I know that Kate and I love this, and I hope that you guys are too. And I know, like we said in the beginning, like culture is not something that's really talked about in our industry, but Kate and I really are pushing for that change. And, I'm hoping that, as Mike has shared, that something has stuck out for you today. But Mike, what do you want our listeners to take away from your message today?
Yeah, I would. So I think the first thing is, so let me think about that. So what do I want people to take away? The first thing I would have you take away is you have a lot of choice. Okay. You can make choices. And so then it's like, hey, reflect on how I behave. How is that different from where I want to be? Right. And then make some choices. But I think, if you do this stuff well, I think the benefit of it, if you spend time literally stepping back, maybe you're really technically focused, technical, there's more to it than that. And so you want to step back and think about why you're doing these things. And I think if you can do all that, you'll build a lot of meaning into what you do, which is really gratifying and rewarding, right? Like I love this culture stuff because it gives me so much back. It gives me way more back than I put into it. And I put a lot into it. And so I would say, hey, you have an ability to make choices. Start by understanding who you are and what you are. Look at those behaviors. Think about what you want for others, and then write some stuff down. Right? Write some stuff down and see what happens. Right? I don't know. That's not a very clear takeaway, but I think that's kind of the arc of this conversation. So I hope it's helpful.
No, that's great. I think that's awesome. Mike, we really appreciated having you on here. And I know that you offer a free trial of your guys' product at FreshBooks. Would you share a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Chances are if you're a therapist, our accounting software is going to be easier to use and a good fit for you. But, don't take it from me. Please go ahead and just try out our software. It's free. You can get going at the free trial in seconds. And please know that we really do have, as well as the award-winning culture, a long history of literally world-class customer service. So feel free to phone, email, whatever. We want to be here for you and support you as you support your clients. We are a similarly supportive business. And so, please check FreshBooks out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for being here. And we hope that you guys join us next week as we welcome Danielle Swim talking about how to get organized in private practice.
We hope you guys enjoyed the episode today with Mike, and we always want to create content that meets your needs in private practice. So if there's a topic that we have not had yet, definitely reach out to us, send us an email, let us know if you're loving the episodes. We'd love to invite you to subscribe, rate, and review the show and share with your fellow colleagues and friends. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.